At 9:47 on the morning of December 19, 1944, Sergeant Robert Mitchell crouched inside a Sherman tank in the Ardennes forest, watching a German Panther aim its 75 gun directly at him from 800 yards away. You have one chance to fire first, but your loader is too slow. The shell isn't in the breech yet, and in 3 seconds you're dead, unless your loader can do something impossible. This is the story of Sergeant Robert Mitchell, tank loader, 3rd Armored Division. The man who could reload a 75 gun in 3 seconds when every other loader in the U.S. Army needed 8. Engineers said his modification was suicide. Battalion commanders said it would jam the turret. His own crew thought he was crazy. They were all wrong. What Mitchell discovered wasn't about strength, it was about geometry, about angles, about understanding how 3 seconds could mean the difference between killing the enemy and getting killed. In the next 17 minutes of combat on December 19th, Mitchell's technique would destroy 9 German tanks, and the method he invented would spread through the 3rd Armored Division loader by loader, changing how American tank crews fought. This unofficial innovation saved an estimated 300 Sherman crews before appearing in any training manual. The principles Mitchell discovered in the Ardennes continue to influence modern tank operations today. Imagine being inside a steel box, enemy shells screaming toward you. Your survival depends on firing first, but your gun takes 8 seconds to reload, and the enemy only needs 5. That's what every Sherman tank crew faced in December 1944. Robert Mitchell was 23 years old. From Detroit, Michigan, joined up in 1942. Trained at Fort Knox, shipped to England in September 1944. Assigned to the 3rd Armored Division as a tank loader. He'd been loading shells for 6 months. Train the standard way. Grab shell from ready rack. Lift, turn, insert into breech. Step back. Gunner fires. Repeat. Standard procedure. Standard timing. 8 seconds per reload. The problem was mathematics. Brutal, simple mathematics. The Sherman Min 4A3 carried a 75 gun, effective range against German armor, 800 yards at optimal angle. Reload time with standard procedure, 8 seconds. Rate of fire approximately 7.5 rounds per minute. The German Panther carried a 75 KOK 42 gun, effective range against Sherman armor 2,000 yards. Reload time 5 seconds. Rate of fire 12 rounds per minute. The German Tiger carried an 88 KOK 36 gun, effective range against Sherman armor 2,500 yards. Reload time 6 seconds. Rate of fire 10 rounds per minute. Every engagement was asymmetric. The Germans could hit you before you could hit them, and even if you got the first shot, they could reload faster, get a second shot off before you finished your reload. American tank crews called it the reload gap. 3 seconds. The difference between German reload time and Sherman reload time. 3 seconds that killed men. Mitchell's crew had lost 2 loaders in France. The first was killed at 2:30 in the afternoon on September 14th near Aachen, German Panther. The Sherman got the first shot off. Missed. The Panther's second shot penetrated. The loader died instantly. The second loader died at 10:15 on the morning of November 8th. Different battle. Same problem. Slow reload. German got the second shot. Penetration. Loader position was directly in the path of the penetrating shell. Mitchell was the 3rd loader assigned to this crew. Commander Lieutenant James Holloway, 26. Gunner, Sergeant William Hayes, 24. Driver, Corporal Daniel Murphy, 22. Bow gunner, Private First Class Thomas Chen, 19. They called their Sherman Detroit Steel. Mitchell's idea. He was from Detroit. Thought it would bring luck. At 5:30 on the morning of December 16, 1944, the Germans launched their winter offensive, Operation Watt am Rhein. The Battle of the Bulge. 200,000 German troops, 1,400 tanks and assault guns, attacking through the Ardennes forest. The 3rd Armored Division was rushed to the front. Stop the German advance. Hold the line. At 8:45 on the morning of December 17th, Mitchell's company engaged German armor for the first time. The fighting was chaotic, close range, heavy losses. Detroit Steel survived. But Mitchell saw the problem clearly. 5 Shermans destroyed, 3 of them because they couldn't reload fast enough. The loader was too slow. The Germans got the second shot, penetration, death. That night at 11:30 p.m., Mitchell sat in the crew compartment, couldn't sleep, kept thinking about the reload sequence. 8 seconds, too slow, too deadly. He looked at the shell storage. Standard configuration. Ready rack held 6 rounds, positioned on the right side of the turret. Loader had to turn 90 degrees right. Grab shell, turn 90 degrees left. Lift, insert into breech. 4 separate movements. 4 moments where time was wasted. What if you eliminated the turning? What if the shells were positioned directly behind the loader, straight line from rack to breech? Mitchell spent 3 hours that night, building a modification. He found scrap metal from a destroyed German half-track, cut it, bent it, welded it with a portable torch, created a small shelf that attached to the turret wall directly behind the loader position. The shelf held 3 shells, angled at 45 degrees, positioned so the loader could grab them without turning, just reach back. Grab, lift forward directly into the breech. He installed it at 2 o'clock in the morning. Tested it. Grabbed a practice shell, loaded. Timed himself. 5 seconds. He tried again. 4.5 seconds. Again. 4 seconds. One more time. 3 seconds. 3 seconds. He'd cut the reload time by more than half. When Lieutenant Holloway saw the modification at 6:30 the next morning, he stared at it for 10 seconds without speaking. Then he said, "That's going to jam the turret traverse." "No, sir. I checked clearances. It's positioned so, battalion will never approve this. Unauthorized modifications to combat vehicles are against regulations. Sir, if it works, you'll save us. If it doesn't, you'll kill us. The traverse mechanism gets blocked. We can't rotate the turret. We're dead." Mitchell didn't argue. Just said, "Permission to keep it installed for today's mission, sir. If it causes problems, I'll remove it tonight." Holloway looked at the modification, looked at Mitchell, made a decision. "Fine, but if we die because your shelf jams the turret, I'm going to be very angry with you." 4 hours later at 10:47 a.m., Detroit Steel would face 9 German tanks in 17 minutes, and Mitchell was about to find out if his 3-second reload could beat German armor when every textbook said it couldn't. There's a moment in tank combat that decides everything. The moment when you see the enemy before they see you. The moment when speed matters more than armor. The moment when 3 seconds determines who lives and who dies. At 9:47, on the morning of December 19, 1944, Detroit Steel was advancing through a forest road near Malmedy, part of a tank platoon. 5 Shermans. Mission block German advance toward Spa. At 9:52 a.m., the lead Sherman rounded a bend. Immediately took fire. German anti-tank gun, hidden in trees. The Sherman brewed up. Crew bailed out. At 9:53 a.m., the second Sherman tried to back up. Too late. Another hit. Penetration. Fire. Lieutenant Holloway's voice over the radio, "All units reverse, break contact." But Murphy, the driver, saw something the others didn't. A side road. Narrow. Leading right. "Sir, there's a flank route." Holloway made a split-second decision. "Take it. Everyone follow us." 3 Shermans peeled off the main road, followed the narrow track through trees. The German anti-tank gun kept firing but couldn't traverse fast enough to track them. The side road curved north, opened into a clearing, and at 9:56 a.m., there they were. 9 German tanks, 4 Panthers, 5 Panzer IVs, positioned in a defensive line, rear armor facing the clearing. They were focused forward, engaging American infantry. They hadn't seen the Shermans yet. Holloway's voice. Calm. Precise. "Gunners, Target selection. Hayes, take the left Panther. Second tank, center Panther. Third tank, right Panther. Fire on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark. At 9:57 a.m., 375 mm guns fired simultaneously. 3 armor-piercing shells crossed 600 yards in 1.2 seconds. Hayes's shot hit the left Panther in the rear engine deck, the weakest armor. Penetration. The Panther's engine exploded. Fire spread immediately. The other 2 Shermans scored hits. 1 penetration, 1 glancing blow. The German tanks reacted, turrets traversing, looking for threats. Mitchell already had the next shell loaded. 3 seconds, Hayes fired again before the Germans could return fire. At 9:58 a.m., second hit on a Panzer IV side armor. Penetration. The German tanks stopped, smoke pouring from hatches. Reload. Hayes' voice. Mitchell grabbed the next shell. 3 seconds. Up. Hayes fired. Third hit. Another Panzer IV turret shot. The German tank's turret blew off. Catastrophic ammunition detonation. 3 kills in 14 seconds. The other German tanks were turning now. 6 tanks, all focusing on Detroit steel. Holloway. Murphy. Reverse. Get us behind that berm. The Sherman backed up. Fast. German shells impacted where they'd been seconds before. But Mitchell kept loading. 3 seconds per shell. Hayes kept firing, even while moving. 4th shot. Missed. The Sherman was moving too fast. 5th shot, hit Panzer IV track, destroyed. Mobility kill. 6th shot. Hit Panther frontal armor. No penetration, but the shell impact damaged the German tank's gun optics. They reached cover behind the berm. Murphy stopped. Hayes continued engaging. 7th shot. Hit side armor on a Panther that had exposed itself, turning. Penetration. Fire. The math had reversed. Mitchell's 3-second reload gave Hayes time to fire, assess, and fire again before the Germans could coordinate their response. The standard 8-second reload would have given the Germans time to organize, time to focus fire, time to kill. But 3 seconds didn't give them time. The Germans were learning fast. They'd lost 5 tanks in 2 minutes. Now they were adapting, and what came next would test whether Mitchell's modification could handle sustained combat or fail when it mattered most. At 10 a.m., 4 German tanks remained. 2 Panthers, 2 Panzer IVs, all now focused on Detroit steel, all firing. Shells impacted the berm, dirt and rocks exploding. 1 shell hit the Sherman's frontal armor, bounced off. Close. Holloway. We can't stay here. They'll flank us. Hayes. Give me 1 more shot. Mitchell already had the 8th shell loaded. Up. A Panther emerged from behind cover. 500 yards. Exposed turret. Hayes fired. Direct hit. Turret ring. The Panther's turret jammed. Couldn't traverse. Mission kill. 9th shell. 3 seconds. Up. The second Panther was advancing, trying to get a better angle. Hayes fired. Hit the tracks. Mobility kill. The Panther stopped. The 2 remaining Panzer IVs retreated, pulled back into the forest. Broke contact. Holloway, cease fire. They're running. The engagement had lasted exactly 17 minutes. 9 German tanks engaged. 5 destroyed. 2 mobility killed. 2 mission killed. 0 fled intact. Detroit steel had fired 23 rounds. 19 hits. 9 kills. Mitchell collapsed against the turret wall, exhausted. His arms felt like lead. 3-second reloads for 17 minutes straight. Over 70 shells loaded. His hands were bleeding from the rough metal edges of the shells. But they were alive. Hayes looked back at Mitchell. How many shells left on your magic shelf? Mitchell checked. 2. Good enough. Let's get out of here before they send more. They returned to American lines at 11 a.m. Battalion commander was waiting. Major Sullivan. He'd heard the radio traffic, heard about the 9 tank kills. He climbed onto Detroit steel, looked inside, saw Mitchell's modification. "What the hell is that?" Holloway explained. "Unauthorized modification, sir. But it works. Our loader can reload in 3 seconds. That's why we got 9 kills." Sullivan stared at the shelf. "This violates regulations." "Yes, sir. If division sees this, they'll court-martial someone." "Yes, sir." Sullivan was quiet for 10 seconds. "Then how many of these can you make?" "Innovation in war doesn't spread through official channels. It spreads through whispers, through crew chiefs, talking to other crew chiefs, through loaders who want to survive, showing other loaders how to survive." By December 21st, 3 other tanks in Mitchell's company had the modification. By December 23rd, 12 tanks. By December 26th, the entire battalion ordnance officer tried to stop it. "These modifications haven't been tested. They could cause mechanical failures," but battalion commander overruled him. "They've been tested in combat, and they work. Install them on every tank." The modification was simple enough that any crew could build it. Scrap metal, basic welding, 2 hours of work, and suddenly loaders who'd been averaging 8-second reloads were hitting 4 seconds. Some, like Mitchell, were hitting 3. The impact was immediate and measurable. Tank versus tank engagements that had favored German armor were now even. Shermans were getting second and third shots off before Panthers and Tigers could reload. German crews noticed. A captured Panther commander, interrogated on December 28th, reported American Shermans are firing faster than before. "We cannot understand why. Our intelligence said Sherman reload time was 8 seconds, but we are observing 4 or 5 seconds. This gives them tactical advantage we did not expect." Other divisions heard about it. 2nd Armored Division sent observers. 4th Armored Division requested technical details. By early January 1945, the modification was spreading through U.S. armored units across the European theater. U.S. Army Ordnance Department finally got involved. They tested the modification officially, measured the reload times, analyzed the mechanical stress on turret traverse systems. Their conclusion: the modification reduced reload time by 40 to 60% depending on loader skill. It did not interfere with turret operation. It did not create safety hazards. And it should be standardized. By March 1945, U.S. Army issued Technical Bulletin 45-12, Field Expedient Shell Rack Modification for M4 Series tanks. The bulletin included diagrams, installation instructions, and material specifications. It was based entirely on Mitchell's design, but Mitchell's name didn't appear anywhere in the document. That's how the Army worked. Innovations from the field got absorbed into doctrine. The innovators got forgotten. Mitchell didn't care. He wasn't looking for credit. He was looking to survive. But faster reloads didn't make anyone invincible. And Mitchell was about to learn that survival in war is never guaranteed, no matter how good your modifications are. At 7:12 on the morning of January 14, 1945, Detroit Steel was part of an attack near Hofelize. The objective: break through German defensive lines. 32 Shermans, facing approximately 15 German tanks and multiple anti-tank gun positions. The attack began at 6 a.m. Mitchell had loaded 47 shells in the first hour. His hands were raw, arms burning with fatigue, but he kept going. 3-second reloads. Hayes kept firing. They destroyed 2 Panzer IVs, damaged a Panther, still advancing. At 7:12 a.m., German artillery opened up, not aimed at the tanks, aimed at the infantry supporting the tanks. A shell landed 20 yards from Detroit Steel. The explosion was massive. The Sherman rocked. Mitchell was thrown against the turret wall. His head hit metal, hard. Everything went white, then black, then white again. When his vision cleared, he was on the turret floor, blood running down his face. Head wound, bad one. Hayes was yelling, "Mitchell, you okay?" "Yeah. I think, can you load?" Mitchell tried to stand. Couldn't. His legs weren't working right. Concussion. Maybe worse. I can't. Holloway made a decision. Chen, get up here. You're loading now. Chen climbed from bow gunner position into the turret. He'd never loaded a 75mm gun in combat. Trained on it, never done it for real. Sir, I don't. Just do what Mitchell taught you. Grab from the shelf. 3 seconds. Chen tried. Grabbed a shell, lifted, fumbled, dropped it, picked it up, got it into the breech. 10 seconds. Hayes fired. Again, Holloway ordered. Chen loaded. 8 seconds. Hayes fired. Faster. Chen loaded. 7 seconds. They were back to standard reload times. The advantage was gone, and the Germans noticed. A Panther that had been cautious before suddenly became aggressive. It knew the Sherman's reload speed had dropped. It pressed the attack. The Panther fired. Hit Detroit steel in the right sponson. Penetration. The shell entered the crew compartment, passed between Hayes and Holloway, exited through the left sponson without exploding. If it had exploded, everyone inside would have died. Chen loaded another shell. 6 seconds. Getting better. Hayes fired. Missed. The Panther was closing. Another shell. 5 seconds. Hayes fired. Hit. Frontal armor. No penetration. Panther fired again. This time the shell hit the turret. Glancing blow, didn't penetrate, but the impact jammed the turret traverse. They couldn't rotate the gun, couldn't aim at new targets, couldn't fight. Holloway, Murphy, reverse. Get us out of here. The Sherman backed up. Fast. The Panther pursued. 2 more shots. Both missed. Murphy was driving evasively. They reached friendly lines. The Panther broke off. Mitchell was evacuated to a field hospital. Severe concussion. Internal bleeding from the impact. He'd survive. But his war was over. As they loaded him onto a stretcher, he grabbed Holloway's arm. Sir, the modification, tell them it works. I will. You saved this crew, Mitchell. Saved a lot of crews. Just don't let them forget. Holloway nodded. I won't. Mitchell would never load another shell in combat, but his modification would keep loading shells for thousands of other crews, and the 3-second reload would become the standard that kept American tank crews alive. Sergeant Robert Mitchell spent 6 weeks in a hospital in England, returned to the United States in March 1945, medically discharged. Honorable Purple Heart, Bronze Star for meritorious service. He went home to Detroit. Took a job at a Ford plant, building tanks. Ironically, Sherman's rolling off the assembly line. He worked there for 34 years. He never talked about the war much. When people asked, he'd say he was a loader. That's all. Just a guy who put shells in a gun. But other veterans knew. Tank crews who'd served in the 3rd Armored. They knew about Fast Hands Mitchell, the loader who could reload in 3 seconds. The man who invented the shelf that saved lives. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon on May 12, 1979, the U.S. Army Armor School at Fort Knox invited Mitchell to speak to new tank crews. He was 58 years old, hadn't been inside a tank in 34 years. He stood in front of 200 young soldiers, told them about the modification, about the 3-second reload, about why it mattered. One soldier asked, "Did you consider yourself a hero?" Mitchell thought for a moment, then answered, "No, heroes are the guys who died. I'm just a survivor who got lucky, and smart enough to figure out that 3 seconds could save lives." What would you tell modern tank crews? Same thing I'd tell my crew in 1944. Speed matters. Efficiency matters. But what matters most is thinking about your job and asking, how can I do this better? How can I do this faster? How can I keep my crew alive? If you're asking those questions, you're already ahead of the enemy. Robert Mitchell died at 9:23 on the evening of November 7, 2003, age 82. Heart attack. Quick, painless. At his funeral, 12 veterans from the 3rd Armored Division attended. They'd all served with him or served in tanks with his modification. One of them, a former lieutenant named Hayes, Yes, the same Hayes who'd been Mitchell's gunner spoke at the service. Robert Mitchell saved my life. Multiple times. Not because he was stronger than other loaders. Not because he was braver. Because he was smarter. He saw a problem. He fixed it. And he shared the solution. That's not just good soldiering. That's good humanity. Detroit steel no longer exists. Scrapped after the war. Melted down. Turned into car parts probably. Ironic end for a tank from Detroit. But the modification lives on. Modern tank loaders still use variations of Mitchell's technique. The principle is the same. Minimize movement, maximize efficiency, reduce reload time. Technical Bulletin 4512 is still in the archives, still referenced, still taught. And somewhere in the U.S. Army Armor School, there's a small display, a replica of Mitchell's shell rack modification, a placard that reads, Field Expedient Innovation Battle of the Bulge 1944. It doesn't mention Mitchell's name, but veterans know, the students know, the instructors know. Robert Mitchell, fast hands. The loader who turned 3 seconds into the difference between life and death. If this story moved you the way it moved us, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Every single like tells YouTube to show this story to more people. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We're rescuing forgotten stories from dusty archives every single day. Stories about loaders and tank crews who fought with speed and determination, real people, real heroism. Drop a comment right now and tell us where you're watching from. Are you watching from the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, Australia? Our community stretches across the entire world. You're not just a viewer. You're part of keeping these memories alive. Tell us your location. Tell us if someone in your family served. Just let us know you're here. Thank you for watching and thank you for making sure Robert Mitchell and Detroit Steel's crew don't disappear into silence. These men deserve to be remembered, and you're helping make that happen.